Alrighty, looks like we got an enemy incoming. We can take him easy. Just get that 20mm around. And it hits. Sweet. Connecting. What happened to my boat? It's the Flying Dutchman! Howdy folks, Sauber here. Welcome back to the channel. Sorry about that, guys. My allergies are still getting to me. Sorry for the late upload. Aside from assuming things went well, my bite-sized War Thunder video should be up by the time you're watching this, but I'll get into that in a moment. Anyway, we are going to be taking out something I've yet to take out on my channel, and that is any kind of boat. And I've decided to take out Kennedy's PT-109, or as the game just calls it for some reason, the Elco 80-foot PT-109. Now this boat, you might wonder in the title, why did I call it Kennedy's Flying Dutchman or Kennedy's Ghost Boat or something like that? I have yet to determine the title of it. But that's because in the replay, I don't know why, but for some reason it got a little wonky around the 10-minute mark for the first battle, and it just got stuck on connecting, and I was like, oh, why are you doing this? I guess replays for boats are not well optimized at this point, but it literally looked like I was playing a ghost boat, excuse me, because it looked like it was destroyed, but it was still moving. I don't know. It's a little weird like that. But today I'm going to be taking out the PT-109 and seeing how it performs in ship realistic battles. Now, I'm not going into the big ships yet. Not yet. I have yet to really master... Oh, good grief. Is it lagging? Oh, never mind. Master the art of the large ships, like destroyers and cruisers. I don't really play boats, or ships rather, as much as like tanks, planes, and helicopters. But I thought, why not? If I don't do good, whatever. If I do good, great. I'll give this a try. But anyway, let's get into it. So this first battle, even though we didn't really win this one... Oh, sorry, spoiler alert. My bad. It actually turned out to be a really decent game. Now, I don't know if it was because it was in low tier or what, but playing the boats actually was kind of decently fun. But like I said, I haven't really figured out the large ships just yet. I've only played them sparingly. I can't tell you... Sorry, little fishing boat. I didn't know I would actually destroy that thing. But at any rate, the PT boats, I thought they were going to be like, eh. Because I played them sparingly during the CBT, or pre-beta, as they like to call it. But yeah, driving around and just seeing enemies along corners and using that derpy 20mm in the back, and if you can aim right, the torpedoes, it actually can be pretty decent. But anyway, I'll get into that little moment. Let's pick up where we left off in my little storyline. I hope I can make this like the final part, and then whatever time is left over, discuss a little more about ships in general. Alright, so where we left off was that it was the beginning of 2017, or, sorry, yeah, and then they had the April Fools for the modern tanks, namely the Leopard 2A5 and the T-90A Vladimir. That was a ton of fun, and that was also our first preview of helicopters. Now, I will admit, back then, unlike now, the controls for the helicopters were a little wonky, so you tended to crash if you weren't careful, but the ATGMs were amazing. It was like, wow, this is cool. Wonder what they're going to be like when we actually get them. And then a short while later, in around, I believe it was October or November of 2017, that's when we got the first iteration of Rank 6 tanks. The MBTN/KPZ-70 and the T-64A. That was such an exciting time because it was like, wow, this is cool. We kind of got like the baby Abrams of sorts, is what I like to call the MBT-70. And then the T-64A, I was already comparing it to a very early T-90. Because the funny thing is that first you had the T-64. Hang on, I need to take a drink. Sorry, my throat is still killing me, but I'm trying my best here. But anyway, you started off with the T-64, then you moved on to the T-72, which was supposed to be a cheaper export variant of the T-64, with a different chassis, different armor composites, and the know-how. And then you had the T-80, which combined the best of the T-64 and T-72, and then of course you put a gas turbine in it. And then comes post-Soviet Russia, and the Ministry of Defense, or whatever it's officially called, sorry if I got it wrong, is trying to decide, should we come up with a new version of the T-80, that is the T-80UD, or come up with the T-90, which is a modernized T-72. And then you get the T-90. So if you look at those four tanks, you can see they have quite a bit in common in terms of build up and shape. They're really awesome tanks. I certainly do love them. And then later on, in early March of this year, 2018 rather, you get the big dogs. You get the T-64B, Leopard 2K, and of course, the M1 Abrams. And then further down the road, you also get, sorry, I got ahead of myself. But when the M1 Abrams was added, I was like, man, this is great. The very first M1 in the Abrams family to be added to the game. This is great. I had a great time with the M1. And then when they added the Leopard 2A4 and 1.79 Project X, I was like, ooh yeah, first real 120mm in the game. I mean, we had the Leopard 2K with the early Rheinmetall L44, but it was like, yeah, but Leopard 2K doesn't have as good armor as Leopard 2A4. We were really waiting for the Leopard 2A4, but hey, we got it in Project X, and then we got to be fed our daily ration of XM1s. And let me tell you, from personal experience, they were delicious. But in all seriousness, the XM1 spam was unbelievable at that time. Like, you got mixed battles like 80% of the time. And I remember when I made my Leopard 2A4 video, I was like, that's not a Sheridan. I literally thought at that time that the tank I was targeting was a Sheridan, not a Bagel Panzer. Or excuse me, the Big Light Panzer 57. I was joking around about the so-called Bagel Panzer the other day to, I think it was one of our German forum moderators. He's like, please don't call it the Bagel. That really triggers me. I'm like, okay, sorry. But, yeah. Then dealing with the horde of XM1 spam, I kind of felt bad for the newbie players that had just bought their XM1s, like, I got the best take in the game, I'm MVP, and all that jazz, and then they have to deal with the experienced players playing T-64 BVs and Leopard 2A4s. It's like, yeah, sorry buddy. But then at the same time, the XM1 was deadly. Like, I was killed a number of times by the XM1, be it by a flank or even a trap shot to the lower point. But moving on from there, we also got the M1 IP, and then I especially enjoyed the additions of the BMP2 and the T-80B. And yeah, sorry, I lost track. Oh yeah, now I was going to mention, I wanted to thank Blue Bins for making a comment on my T80B video explaining the difference between the T80B and T80BV. I figured I was missing something there. He said the difference between the T80B and BV is the upper front plate. The BV has a 5-layer composition similar to that of the T64B, and the T80B is what we have in the game right now. The T80B IRL was equipped with Contact 1, but not to be mistaken with the T80BV. So yeah, that was definitely some helpful information, because I thought, you know, the T64B, when you get the ERA package, it immediately changes to T64BV. But I guess that's because it did become the BV when it got the ERA, but that wasn't necessarily the case with the T80B and T80BV. And then, of course, also we got the addition of the helicopters, which I've certainly enjoyed, both in real battles and in custom battles. I've yet to master helicopters and tank RB. I mean, I've gotten like 3 kills in one game with my BO-105 German helicopter, but I ended up becoming warm food to that pesky FJ4B VMF-232. But yeah, as for the helicopter versus helicopter mode, it's funny because during the first dev server for the helicopters, I was like, they're just going to become cannon fodder. But that was before I learned how to properly play them, and I had, in the dev server feedback, I pushed for them to add, you know, a helicopter versus helicopter mode, which is the event we have right now. And when I first played it, I thought, yes, this is what we need. This is great. And I had a great deal of fun, especially with my AH-1G and my UH-1C XM30. But over time, it kind of got a little stale. I mean, don't get me wrong, playing helicopters is fun, but when I say stale, I mean like, I prefer to play the helicopter RB mode, but it takes, even when playing as the Russians, I don't know why, it takes anywhere between 7 to 10 minutes to get into a match, and even then you'll get rumple-stomped by AH-1s, any of the AH-1s, be it the G, the F, or the Zulu, excuse me. And don't get me wrong, I like playing my AH-1G, but I kind of have a similar relationship with any vehicle. It's like, even if I enjoy the vehicle, eventually I want to digress. I want to play another vehicle I have. For example, with helicopters and tanks respectively, sometimes I want to play my Mi-24 Hind. I want to play my T-80BV, or excuse me, T-80B. But at the same time, it's like, then you gotta deal with the AH-1s or the M1 Abrams. And I have nothing against those vehicles as a whole, but sometimes it's just difficult to deal with them, especially in regards to the helicopters, because historically, if I recall correctly, well, when I say historically, I mean like modern times too, because I forget, the AH-1Z is from 2010, so there's that. It's recent history, you could say. Is that attack helicopters, if I understand correctly, and I mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again anyway, they are not really meant to fight each other. They're meant as ground support. I don't think you would really get into a dogfight with another helicopter, but that can't really be helped because it's a video game. But at the same time, it's like, how do you balance that? Now, I have seen it balanced out in the past, but I guess maybe they're still experimenting with the helicopters, because I don't want to badmouth the helicopters or anything, but I think releasing them 1 month out of CBT was just way too soon. I think there was some fine-tuning and polishing that they could have done while the beta was still around, but I guess they'll make use of that with the German helicopters. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the current status or state of helicopters. Because I've seen some people complain about helicopters in Tank RB about how you could just get enough points to get an HEGM equipped one, zoom climb, and then just shoot them out of oblivion. But at the same time, you too could like rush a cap point and get a couple kills and hop in a plane, but sometimes that's not always practical. You want to remain in your current vehicle to get more research points with it, especially with the recent removal of the RP cap. Thank you. But without a doubt, helicopters in some situations can be difficult to deal with. But it's another story if they play reckless, like if they don't have ATGMs or they think they can go rockets galore on you, which sometimes it does work, let me tell you, because one time I was in my BMP-2, which, by the way, I'll be making a video about in the future, so stay tuned for that. I shot down 3 helicopters. But the third one, because I didn't get his pilot, now I was spamming my gun trying to get his pilot because he could still fire his rockets. Just one Hydra rocket hull broke me. I was so mad. I was like, man, here I am shooting down 3 helicopters, and the third one just has to stay alive long enough to get me. Yeah, feels bad, man. But at any rate, I wonder, because the developers have said, or sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. But on the other hand, when the helicopters are playing smart, where they're climbing high and using their ATGMs, if available, then they can especially be hard to deal with. Because you can't shoot at them with your main gun, you can't shoot at them with your secondary guns, and you especially cannot shoot them with ATGMs, because by that time they're well beyond 3 kilometers away. Chances are they're like 6 kilometers away. And higher than you. I don't know. Supposedly they might make some changes to the helicopter ATGM, but we'll have to wait and see about that. But all in all, the developers have said in a Q&A that they do plan on better optimizing the helicopters in Tank RB. So we'll definitely have to wait and see where they go with that. I certainly do appreciate them putting effort into optimizing the helicopters, even if it's bit by bit. Especially considering that, in my honest opinion, I think, now, to each their own, but I can't help but wonder if them releasing helicopters to the public 1 month after the release was a wee bit too soon. But only time will tell. Now I'm going to go ahead and dedicate the last few minutes of this video towards talking about boats, because come on, this is boats here we're talking about. Boats gameplay. As was mentioned earlier, the boats are indeed fun to play around with. I especially enjoyed making this video. It only took 4 battles to make the video that you see here. And at first I thought I'm probably going to do really poor with the PT boats since I'm a newbie with, well, not necessarily a newbie. I've played them a number of times before, but as you know, not as much as planes, not as much as tanks. Because with planes, I've been playing planes in War Thunder since I registered to War Thunder back in February 2013. I've been playing tanks since April of 2014. That's a long time. So with the boats, which I played sparingly, because back in the pre-beta, I wasn't all that interested, mainly because of the limited time schedules. That, I don't know why that just wasn't appealing to me. So I played the boats sparingly, and even then, long story, as I've mentioned in one previous video, I think it was the French BF-110 video, the Potez 631 video, where until pre-beta ended, you know, we went into open beta, at least I think it's open beta for ships, or if they're released, I don't know. You could not play this boat you see that I'm driving or sailing here, the PT-109, or the other PT boat that I bought, the Project 1124, which, by the way, to each their own, but I ended up not really liking the Project 1124 in regular battles. I mean, it was cool on paper, but I don't know, maybe I just haven't mastered it all that much yet, but I'll go into more of that another time. At any rate, I don't know why, but even during the pre-beta times, you could not, under any circumstances, play the boats that you paid good money for. I don't know why, but that's just the way it was. You couldn't even play custom battles with ships until, you know, ships were officially released. But all in all, I can't complain too much, because now that I have the PT-109, I'm enjoying it. It was worth the wait, especially since that gave me more time to play the other vehicles that were added in not Masters of the Sea, oh my goodness, the Valkyries, you know, the helicopters, the T-80, the M1IP, that sort of thing. Now, an interesting topic that I've seen a number of people discuss is, one day we're going to get battleships and heavy cruisers. I have no doubt that at some point in the future we will get larger ships like heavy cruisers and battleships and that sort of thing. I mean, the battleships that come to my mind are the Yamato, the Iowa, and the Bismarck, and the Tirpitz, that sort of thing. But I think if you step back a little, I can understand why War Thunder is taking it easy on, you know, adding larger ships, because the larger the ships are, the larger the fighting distance it is, and that would mean larger maps and longer times getting to the target. I mean, destroyers and light cruisers, it's pretty decent right now, but as you get into heavier classes of ships, you have farther firing ranges and would most likely need larger maps. And also maneuverability to a reasonable degree would be another issue. Because even with destroyers, in some cases, they can be difficult to maneuver. A prime example was when Fly Daily had the big custom battle during one of his streams in which he would have as many of us as possible get close together with our large ships, be it a destroyer or a light cruiser, or for those that didn't have either one of those boats, a torpedo boat or a sub chaser, that sort of thing. We all had to get up into a nice, it was kind of like a cuddle pen, if you want to call it that, because we were all trying to maneuver into position and we're like all over the place. It was ridiculous. It was so disorganized, we kind of get into a big mess. But nonetheless, he was able to drop that 5,000 kilogram bomb from the PE-8 on us, and it would just wreak havoc. But the problem started to begin when we tried to get all in a big line, in a row. Because what Fly wanted to experiment with was, if he bombed the lead ship, would the explosion of that ship detonate the one behind him, and then the one behind that one, and so on. That is, in a chain. Now, obviously, that did not work. Or let me rephrase that. Only the first 3, 4, or even 5 ships got destroyed, but the rest did not. But it was such a pain to try to get us, as many of us, into a row, because they're such big ships, they can be difficult to maneuver. And then tried doing that with heavy cruisers and battleships. It'd certainly be hilarious to see how we would be able to do that. But all in all, I'm not against heavy cruisers or battleships. I certainly would love to see them in the game. I just think that once we optimize, you know, the light cruisers and then maybe get into heavy cruisers, then we can get battleships. So that is pretty much it. Not just for the video, but also my little storytelling session, going from my earliest days of War Thunder all the way up to the present, which is December of 2018. I've certainly enjoyed telling you my time about War Thunder and some things we can expect to see in the future. Oh, that reminds me. Remember that big surprise, or 2018 going out with a bang? No, it wasn't Gaijin headquarters blowing up. God forbid. Ay, ay, ay. No, rather, I figured out what it was, and I'm pretty sure you all know already. You ready? Pasta tanks! Italian tanks are coming, boys and girls! So we'll definitely see some more interesting vehicles to come in the future. But also, that is another topic for discussion in the future. But anyway, that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you are enjoying the videos so far. I certainly do enjoy making them, and as you may know by now, even though I don't get to make them as often as I'd like. So yeah, expect the BMP2 video to come out soon. I will be working on it very soon. And yeah, have a great day. Stay safe. See you next time. Peace out.